This is a drawing, a pencil drawing I did of a cedar waxwing, and I'm beginning my painting. What this painting will be is what I call a quick stroke watercolor. So you'll see I'm making these quick strokes looking at the photograph that I have and trying to capture the essence, but using a fast and impressionistic technique to capture the essence of the bird, so to speak. Now, sometimes I do very tight, realistic bird portraits and other kinds of paintings, and sometimes I do these kind where it's more of an impressionistic look, and each of those different kinds of painting have their merits. The good thing about these quick stroke watercolors is it's basically you could make an argument that it's more realistic than a realistic painting, because when we look with our eyes at things in nature, we really don't focus on the details. Sometimes if it's a bird, we don't get the chance to anyway because they're always moving so quickly. But our eyes go back and forth. Our eyes are moving. Our eyes are capturing the essence, and our brain is telling us what we are seeing. Our brain is interpreting it. But we hardly ever concentrate on the details. We see flashing colors, we see shapes, we see the value contrasts, that is light versus dark. And so we capture, our brains capture the essence of the thing we're looking at, whether it's a landscape or an animal. And the brain does the interpreting for us. So what I'm doing in paintings like this is capturing some of that feeling of the flashing colors of a bird. In this case, it's a cedar waxwing, which is my favorite bird. I don't know why it's my favorite. I like the sharp, the colors, how they blend together. The gradations of color on the bird, the kind of streamlined shape with a real pointy beak, and that dark eye streak going back in a kind of a streamlined look to it. But anyway, that's the rationale for these kinds of paintings. Impressionism in general, that's the rationale for it, because that's the way that our eyes see things and the way our brain interprets them. And as I have looked at these kinds of paintings, not just my own, but other people's, I've grown to really appreciate their beauty. So you see what I'm doing here is looking at the source material, the reference photograph, and trying to just capture it quickly with quick motions of the brush, not concentrating on the details. There are a few little things I do have to slow down on, such as what I'm doing right here with the tip of the beak. But I try to minimize any kind of pickiness with my brush. Cedar waxwings like to eat berries. So this one is sitting on some kind of a tree or a bush which has berries, red berries on it. When I was much younger, I only liked super realistic paintings, paintings that could be mistaken for a photograph. And as I grew, as my art appreciation part of my brain matured, and I just kept looking at more and more paintings all my life. I love looking at paintings of all kinds, and I grew in my appreciation, especially when I started doing it myself. My tastes in art that I liked grew, and I still love realistic paintings, and I do them myself. But I also learned to really appreciate the artistry, the experience, and the boldness of these kinds of impressionistic paintings, and just the way they look. You can see the brush strokes, and you can see how the artist has captured the essence of the bird or the whatever he's painting. Now, right there, I'm cheating a little bit with some white gouache, which is a opaque watercolor. You got to get that little glint, that little highlight in the eye. That is very important to bring out that sparkle in the eye, and the little highlights on the berries. In just a second here, I'm going to start with the blue background. Now, this part where I put the little red tips on the wings, little highlight there, I wish I'd been a little bit less picky with that and just made them like a streak, a quick streak of red. It's always a temptation to start getting slow and to start trying to slow down and put little details in. You have to, as my advice to artists doing this kind of thing is, resist the temptation to slow down. If you make it so what you think is a mistake, usually it's better just to leave it there. Now, I do need to slow down a little bit here because I don't want to put a big blob of blue right in the middle of my bird. So that's my excuse for slowing down a little bit, doing this, going around the bird with the background. I'm still trying to maintain a semblance of looseness here. I'm not going to have a perfectly smooth blue background. You'll see the overlapping colors here and there, which helps with that loose feeling after it dries. But as I was mentioning, people will, talking about realistic watercolors or realistic paintings in general, people will sometimes compliment me and other people by saying, "Oh, you're so good. That looks just like a photograph." Painters are familiar with that. And the people who say that, they mean well, and I always say thank you. But what they don't realize is they're not really thinking about the implications of that compliment. Your painting looks just like a photograph. Now, if my painting, just think about it, if my painting highest compliment is that it looks like a photograph, well then, why don't I just go into photography? See, if the painting, the greatest compliment is that it looks like a photograph, that means that photographs are better than paintings. So why do we even bother to try to create art? Why don't we all just become photographers? So a better compliment would be for a photographer is to say, wow, your photograph looks just like a painting. Now that, and they do get that occasionally. I think that captures the essence of painting more. I mean, that is, and I'm not trying to take anything away from photographers. That also is a fine art, and a good photographer painting photographs. He follow the same kind of guidelines that any artist would follow in creating a work of art. The lighting, the design of the setting, the background, the focal point, the shapes, the values. It's all carefully set up and observed by the artistic photographer. So there's much more to creating art of any sort than just looking like a photograph. That might even be an insult to a photographer to say, wow, your photograph looks like a photograph. He would rather hear something similar to your photograph looks like a fine art painting. So anyway, that's not going to help the situation. Me talking about it is not going to change anything. And I will keep on nodding and thanking people for this compliment they give me, that your painting looks like a photograph. Because they mean well, and you know what they really mean. They just cannot articulate it as well as they would like. But they're not going to say that about this painting. I think we're getting near the end of the painting now. Getting ready to sign my name at the bottom. Maybe. There we go. There's a signature. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.